managing today's difficult supply chains. Well, joining us today to speak about that, Harsh Koppula, COO and co-founder of TADA. Harsh, it's great to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Harsh, I think it's a fact that we are spending an awful lot of money into technology in today's supply chains, and yet they continue to be difficult to manage, difficult to optimize. And I guess the question is why? So walk us through that. What's your view?
Absolutely. Great question. The world of supply chain technology was built on platforms a long time ago, which means that they are very siloed, very fragmented, and they don't connect horizontally across the end-to-end supply chain, which gives you local functionality but doesn't really allow you to look at what's happening in the world. The second factor is the world has changed pretty dramatically, as everybody knows, and so there is more disruption, there's more volatility to deal with, and the systems were just not set up to deal with them. And that makes it a very difficult proposition for most companies because people cannot see beyond a very limited range of visibility to information. And so that allows them not to be able to respond as fast in a world where rapid response is really very, very key.
Now, you've outlined some serious issues right there. And I guess my question is, we've got something called command centers. Now, don't they satisfy our needs? Don't they address these issues and take care of everything for us?
So we have things that are called control towers that a lot of people seem to have or talk about that they would like to have. But the ability to have a command capability across the entire end-to-end supply chain, not just within your organization, but upstream suppliers, multiple tiers, and downstream distributors, agents, customers, and so on, does not exist. So a command center allows you to be able to look across everything. It's much the example that we give is something that work that we have done, where if you think about a battlefield, the generals need to be able to have a command capability over the entire theater. But people need operational command, and think of that as a control tower for very specific areas or theaters. But you need to actually stitch it together because you're really operating the entire supply network. And that's really what is important for companies to be thinking about, is a command capability that allows you to take charge of your supply chain.
Now, that's a critical point that you've just brought up there. There clearly is a distinction between a control tower and a command center. So let's just drill down into that for just a moment and talk more specifically about the difference between the two. What would you say?
So a command center is one where you have an always connected end-to-end system that is looking across all of the information, not just from within your organization, from without as well, as I said. So having the ability to have an AI-enabled digital twin that keeps everything together continuously so that if anything happens in the supply chain, we know that things are happening all the time.
Absolutely.
That the impact of that is understandable and visible to people up and down the supply network, upstream and downstream all the way from that individual, is what allows the power of a command capability to be in place, without which it is people acting in fragmented ways, and that doesn't really allow the end-to-end supply chain to work the way you would like to, in the way that your strategy requires you to, and that all people are able to do that. The second thing is that you need the ability to be able to do multi-enterprise collaboration at the same time, because you have to actually not just see the problem, but you have to be able to act on it intelligently, and that's what a command capability allows you to do. So,
now, I would imagine that the viewer listening to this says, well, all right, I want to be clear about one thing. Do I need to have both a command center and a control tower? Well, what would you tell that viewer?
Yeah, great question. So you do actually need both. For you to drive a new strategy or to be able to adjust to what's happening in the world, you need the command capability. To be able to run a particular area of the business, you need specific control towers. And so you might have a control tower, let's say, for procurement, or you might have a control tower for planning, or for a factory, or a set of factories. But the thing that threads it together and keeps you in charge of your supply chain is a command center capability.
Now let me ask you this. Is it necessary? Is it absolutely necessary to have a next generation digital twin and AI if I'm going to have a successful best in class command center? Are those components absolutely necessary? What do you say?
In order for you to be able to take charge of your supply chain, you need all of it. You need an AI-enabled digital twin, which is next generation, because only when you're able to keep all of this connected in real time can you actually execute on a command center capability. So we think that it is extraordinarily important to have that capability built in that keeps everything connected all the time.
Now, I would imagine that the viewer is saying, all right, I'm liking what Harsh is telling me, but I want some concrete evidence. So do you have a case study, if you will? Do you have some example that you can point to where a command center has actually come through and has significantly improved performance of in a company? So what would you say?
Absolutely. So we gave a talk yesterday here at Gartner where we had two major customers, GE Healthcare and a large hospital system. Typically, in the past, GE would try to worry about their own supply chain. But in this particular case, GE Healthcare came together with a large hospital system, OSF, so that they could concentrate back from the patient, the ultimate customer, and be able to have a command capability to where both parties could collaborate at a deep level across the entire supply network to make sure that everything that the patient needs is in place and it continuously delivered, and that they're able to manage all the disruptions and the supply chain continuously. And so we had the head of integrated supply chain for GE Healthcare and for the hospital system talking about how they were able to accomplish this with a command capability, but also with local, within their own organization, control towers. And it really made for a very powerful story for the audience.
That's good. That's real world information, and that's great to hear. Final question to you, Harsh. Earlier, you and I were speaking about TADA and how, in your view, it's the ultimate command center. Well, for the benefit of the viewer who isn't really familiar with your company, talk to us for just a moment about its focus and about why you feel it is the ultimate command center. What would you say?
Right. So we saw companies struggling mightily with managing and taking charge of their supply chains. And so we thought about what was ultimately causing the problem. And it came down to being able to have a fundamentally new technology to be able to have an AI-enabled command capability. And so we actually built it. It's been used by companies across the spectrum in industrial manufacturing, in medical devices, in automotive, in CPG, retail. And it was fundamentally based on giving people multi-enterprise collaboration capability, which we think is very, very fundamental to actual improvement and the ability to be able to manage work to solve problems in real time. And having the confidence that the data is always connected and that the system actually cleanses the data as it goes, so it keeps getting better, not worse like it does with traditional solutions.
AI-enabled command center, real-world stuff, not theoretical. That's great information. Harsh, so grateful that you found the time to meet with us today and speak about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russell.
It's Harsh Koppula, TADA, speaking with us today about managing very difficult supply chains today. Perhaps your supply chain. Thanks for watching.